All right, so Chicago obviously is another area where we focus time to time because of, well, it's the state's largest city, major economic driver, no question. A lot of people live in Chicago, but clearly it's something that has a whole host of problems. And somebody that we've connected with time and again and will continue to connect with on the ground in Chicago is William Kelly. And he talks about the ongoing migrant situation and what the city of Chicago is doing about it, the tax dollars that are spent on it. And when I chatted with him earlier this morning, he discussed the latest on whether or not Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is actually going to be going to the southern U.S. border, as it was talked about last week.
Well, God bless you, Greg. Thank you for having me. Uh, as you may know, Mayor Johnson has changed his mind about visiting the border. It was a little bit of a head scratcher for a lot of Chicagoans who feel that that Chicago is now a border town, and that all Mayor Johnson really needed to do was go to any one of a number of places that I've been reporting from. The Inn of Chicago, which is in right off the Magnificent Mile in downtown Chicago, the largest migrant shelter in Chicago, by the way. Um, any one of a number of police stations that are currently housing migrants. And of course, Chicago O'Hare International Airport, which is also has migrants have taken over a complete terminal on both sides of O'Hare. So there was really no need for Johnson to ever even consider going to the border. So that was a little bit of a head scratcher to begin with. But what was more of a head scratcher for me as a lifelong Chicagoan, as somebody who was born and raised to believe, as an Irish Catholic from the South Side of Chicago, I was raised to believe that the mayor of Chicago was the most important job in the world. Okay, that the mayor of Chicago, his word is gold. That he can make or break a president. That world leaders come to Chicago to get the advice of the mayor, right? Mayor Johnson says he's going to go to the border, and then the next day decides he's not going to go. That sends a very worrisome message to a lot of Chicagoans. Real Chicagoans is what I guess I can't help but refer to them as, who were raised to believe that the mayor is decisive, that when he says something, he sticks to it, that there might actually be a rhyme or a reason, a plan, so maybe a larger agenda that we're just not aware of yet. But he's going to go down to the border and he's going to shake things up. He's going to make things right. But we have a mayor now who the only way to really there's really no way for Chicagoans, people who work at City Hall, people who despite the fact that they won't let me attend press conferences at City Hall, plenty of people who work at the hall call me and tell me that that there doesn't seem to be a plan, that Mayor Johnson is rudderless. He doesn't seem to even know what he's doing. So, and now I guess there are some questions as to if he even knows where he is from one day to the next.
So
Right?
again, William Kelly, reporter from Chicago, talking about whether or not Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, is indeed going. However, the mayor saying he's instead going to send a delegation this week. When the mayor's actually going to go, unknown. But the mayor last week proposed his city budget, and it's $16+ billion just for the city of Chicago to spend. It spends $150 million on non-citizen care. But all of those costs compounding. Are they going to get any funds from the state? Are they going to get any funds from the federal government taxpayers? Last week, the governor and the House Speaker for Illinois said that they didn't think a supplemental appropriation was going to come during fall veto session. So it doesn't look like those funds are going to be there. But how much is all of this costing taxpayers? William, he reviews a recent news story about the compounding costs of how much these non-citizens in Chicago are getting in order to have proper facilities, not just sitting in a base camp somewhere.
Well, Greg, it's when you talk about 100 million one day and another 100 million the next day, it's easy for people to it's hard, I guess it would be another way to put it, for people to kind of wrap their heads around these numbers. But a recent number that just came out is that the the, the migrants will be receiving $9,000 per migrant for their for rent. Now, I know a lot of people who could really use $9,000 for rent. Uh, this money also includes a starter kit for furniture, moving costs. This is the kind of number, the kind of program that average people, real people who are struggling can kind of wrap their heads around, and it's making them furious. Mayor Johnson also is planning on putting migrants in various parks around the city, parks that in neighborhoods that supported him, that believed him when he said that he was going to use those parks and programs and for young Black children who need an alternative to violent crime, carjacking, armed robbery. And now these parks that he promised would be would give these children something to do other than carjacking and armed robbery are now going to be used for migrants. The very people that that supported him feel very betrayed today in Chicago, Greg.
Now, there's something else that's happening in Chicago with what happened late last week in the Chicago City Council dealing with the division we're seeing of support for either the Palestinians or support for the Israelis. Clearly, that's just one division. You're also seeing the division of those in the local communities pushing back on caring for more non-citizens while they feel that they get overlooked. Clearly, there is some division across the board on various fronts in Chicago while they're dealing with crime. If you didn't see the video over the weekend of some unruly teenagers or young adults trying to block a Tesla from driving in a particular area in downtown Chicago, just frightening. You got kids sitting on the roof of the car and on the hood and trying to smash the window, and the Tesla driver trying to get out of the way. So obviously they're still dealing with crime and how to deal with that crime. There's some division there as well. So clearly there's a lot of division that's playing out in Chicago, something that William Kelly sounded off on.
Exactly right. Obviously what's going on in the Middle East is horrible. What's going on in Chicago is horrible. We have not only a catch and release program at the border for migrants, we have a catch and release program in Chicago for violent criminals. As soon as the police arrest an armed robber, a carjacker, a judge immediately releases them. And so you have a lot of Chicagoans who would normally be sympathetic and would be outraged about things happening in other parts of the world, asking themselves, why is the mayor focusing on anything other than the escalating and spiraling out of control crises, multiple crises that are taking place in our own city? Chicago is obviously fiscally a mess. We don't have, we have a huge deficit. Mayor Johnson is giving himself a pay raise, and we see just this seemingly endless millions upon millions of dollars being spent on migrants. So there doesn't seem to be a plan, which I think is what is actually the most disconcerting for Chicagoans. It's one thing, to be in a car, for example, that's going 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour down the expressway. But it's another thing to be going in a car that's going 80 or 90 miles an hour that is completely out of control. It's not good to be going 90 miles an hour down the expressway. But it seems like right now the real concern among many Chicagoans that I talk to, including city employees, people who work at City Hall, police officers, is that it's completely out of control. that Mayor Johnson is perhaps out of his, out of his league. I don't think people fully, had any idea who Mayor Johnson or Brandon Johnson really was before he got elected mayor. He was essentially a lobbyist for the Chicago public school system, and a part-time teacher at CPS. That was his resume. I don't know about you, Greg, but when I think back to grammar school and the part-time teachers that would perhaps fill in, here and there when a teacher was sick, I don't remember ever looking at any of them and thinking that's a future world leader.
So, William Kelly, somebody that we talk with every week, we'll definitely be talking with him next week as well to get the latest on what's going on there. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. That's all we've got for today. Of course, if you are new to the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you're watching on Facebook, you'll be able to see clips of this on YouTube. Just search Bishop on Air. If you're watching on Twitter, you can also just search YouTube for clips where we'll segment out a lot of what we've covered. So, again, thank you all for being here. I will get those patches out to those of you who Friday requested those patches. We were blown away. I said only 50, but I got 100 requests, and we have enough to get out. So we'll see if we can do some more in the future, but greatly appreciate everybody's interest. And thanks for hanging out with us today here with Bishop on Air. We'll see you tomorrow to talk about the latest with the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, whether there's any movement on Illinois' gun and magazine ban case, and so much more. So feel free to follow along with me, Bishop on Air, on X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and more. So appreciate everybody tuning in.